Hello, my friends. Today, more bad news is coming from the front. The Russians are advancing further and capturing cities. It seems that even the aid from the US and allies, including aviation support, isn't enough to stop the Russians. But now, let's move directly to the Pokrovsk direction. Unfortunately, it has been confirmed once again that Russian forces killed 16 Ukrainian prisoners of war here. At the same time, the Russians haven't reduced the intensity of their shelling. Over the past day, they shelled Shevchenkova, of course, Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, then Biletske, and Dobropilla. Additionally, Russian FPV drones are actively operating in the frontline areas, and offensive actions continue without pause. The Russians are attempting to push to the highway, but for now, the Ukrainian forces are managing to hold them off. However, near Novogorodivka, there has been another major breakthrough, and the Russians are getting closer to the village of Shevchenkova. There are just 5 kilometers left to this village. They are moving in this direction to encircle Pokrovsk. At the same time, assaults on Mykolaiivka and Lysivka haven't stopped today. The Russians are trying to advance to get as close as possible to the outskirts of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. This situation is also difficult in the Selidove area. The Russians naturally have decided to encircle this fairly large city, and to some extent they are succeeding. They've extended the front line from two sides, and despite this, the attacks toward the city continue. Moreover, due to the Russian advances in the Ukrainsk area, the Russians have essentially encircled Tsukurane. The situation there is critical, and the assaults on the settlement continue non-stop. In the Kurakhove direction, the Russians have already started breaking through directly toward the city of Kurakhove. Along the highway, they are launching assaults, but the Ukrainian forces have managed to repel them, though the situation is worse further south. The Russians were able to advance closer to the village of Katerinivka by another kilometer, and the assaults show no signs of stopping. In the Vuhledar direction, the city had managed to stay under control for a long time with numerous assaults repelled, but unfortunately, the moment has come and the Russians have succeeded in capturing it. They had to expand a huge number of reserves, but their advance here is quite significant. In addition to capturing Vuhledar, they moved quickly through the fields, almost immediately leveling the front line. They haven't stopped their assaults toward Bogoyavlenka, and a large number of shelling have been reported in this area. The Russians are also continuing attacks on Zolota Neva. As we can see, the Russian offensive has now entered its fifth month across the entire front line, and their forces still haven't run out of steam, with some success reported. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the situation is unclear. The Russians are currently only conducting attacks in the area of Malatokmachka, but they haven't achieved success. However, Russian aviation is once again actively operating here, dropping glide bombs towards Zaporizhzhia and its region. That could partially indicate that they are indeed preparing for future offensive actions in this direction, although it's possible they are simply trying to weaken the Ukrainian forces. At the moment, it's difficult to give a precise assessment of what is happening. However, considering the statements from the Ukrainian military that the Russians are trying to build up reserves here for offensive attacks, preparation for an advance may indeed be underway. For now, we wait to see how events will unfold. In the Kherson direction, the Russians continue shelling the right bank, and there have been no significant changes here so far. Attacks around the islands remains ongoing. Now let's shift to the situation in the Toretsk direction. Here, the Russians are also gradually trying to advance, although their successes are limited. As of today, reports indicate that they continue to push further into Toretsk, toward Sherbinivka, and are conducting assaults around Nelipivka and Sukha-Balka. There have been no new breakthroughs, but the situation remains highly tense, with assaults continuing and a significant amount of shelling reported. Holding the defense becomes harder with each passing day as strongholds are being destroyed by cap bombs. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the situation has somewhat stabilized. The Russians have reduced their offensive activity, conducting assaults only toward Chasiv Yar. No new attacks have been observed on the flanks, and the front line hasn't changed in the past 24 hours. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are not holding back their reserves today, attempting to break through towards Serebryanka, Grigorivka, Bilogorivka, and also storming Verkhnyokamensky. The situation here is challenging, but so far the Ukrainian forces have managed to repel all attacks, and the front line has remained unchanged over the past day. In the Crimea direction, the Russians are assaulting Nevsky, and fighting continues in the Serebryanka forest. But as before, there are no significant changes. The capture of Nevsky by the Russians has yet to be confirmed. In the Svatove area, the Russians continue their attacks on Andreevka and are pushing toward Vishneva. Their immediate goal is to even out their front line, after which they aim to stretch it toward Borova and the nearby water obstacle. Further south, fighting continues over the village of Makiyevka, but no changes have been reported here either. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians are assaulting Senkivka, then Novosinove, Glushkivka, and Kruglякivka. Over the past day, there have been no new changes, although previously there were reports of significant Russian advances in this area. The situation remains difficult as the Russians are conducted up to 20 assaults per day, which is a very high number. This suggests that they have a pressing objective to reach Kupiansk. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians are also trying to make gains. They have deployed considerable reserves to break through near Staritsa, Bugrovatka, of course, Vovchansk, and the village of Tikha. However, over the past day, the front line remains unchanged, with the Ukrainian forces continuing to repel the attacks. As for the Kursk direction, the situation remains unchanged, though evacuations are ongoing in border settlements due to continued shelling. For now, we await further developments, but there are no reports of new offensive actions by the Ukrainian forces on Russian territory. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.